Miss Kiera Cass. Try to be a lead.
All right. My question is there a chance of you returning to the selection world after the follow-up to the air? Because I remember reading the Selection Stories novella collection and seeing that you had fully mapped out Elias' history and the ruling family tree, and it would be amazing to see more of that.
I know. I mean, I guess theoretically it's one of those things that could go on forever, like generationally. But I think after the fifth book, I'm going to be done. I feel really fortunate that I actually got to go back to the selection world because I wasn't quite ready to be done. Like I was working on other stuff, and it was just going nowhere. So when we got the opportunity to make 2 more books, I was kind of thrilled. That I was like, oh, I get to quit here a little bit longer. But I do feel like the world's pretty complete. I think with Happily Ever After 2, with all the novellas, you get 3 scenes from Celeste's point of view, the bonus epilogue, like all that stuff's kind of in one place. Like I feel like it's all done. So yeah, I think that's the end. But I am writing more books. Like I'm working on more stuff right as we speak. So stay tuned.
So how do you find the time to write, and what are your major tips for aspiring writers who are plagued by their mundane obligation?
Yeah, potty training is a mundane obligation. No, it's hard. My kids have they went to daycare, my son's in school, like I'm home alone during the day, and I now have we have a family assistant who does our laundry because anybody can do that, and she'll take the kids to gymnastic class because she's awesome. But I stop like at 4:30 when the kids are home, it's time to make dinner, like I try to stop all the work stuff and hang out with them. And I'm not always good at that, but I try. But the truth is, so many authors, like they cannot have writing solely as their day job, like they have to do other things to support themselves. You're not alone, like just because you have to go to school and you have to do homework and you have like clubs and stuff, it seems like almost everybody I know has something like that. So really, I think it's about if you want to write, if you want to try to complete something, you have to carve out the time. Like you have the same 24 hours in a day as everybody else. It's up to you to use them the best you can. So I think it's really in your hands, and I really wish you luck because it is hard. It's totally hard. Good luck.
Harper did purchase the rights to your self-published novel Desire. How does it feel to work on it once again? Will there be any changes from the original work?
Yeah. Okay. So once I put out a book, put in selection, really, once they're out in the world, I never read them again because I know I would want to go tweak and try to figure out like a better way to write a sentence because I'm still growing craft-wise, and I think there's a lot for me to still learn. So when I went back to a book that's 6 years old, that was hard. And I handed it over to my editor, and I trust her so much, and she was just like, these first 5 chapters kind of need to go. Like you don't need those. And these characters, I'm not sure this person needs to exist. And some of these conversations, I don't know if they have to be in there. I was like, oh, so where are we writing this? Okay, and which was scary in one aspect and very draining, but also I think maybe the only way to tackle it because it is sort of difficult to take something. If I had to go back in 6 years and rewrite the selection, I'm not sure what I would do. I don't know if I could tweak what is there. So it is very different. The premise is the same, the characters are the same, the love story is the same, but the way we go through it is very, very different. And I'm hoping that it's maybe a bit more current, because in a lot of ways it's very contemporary. There's a fantasy element to it, but it's happening in real life, like right now. So I'm hoping that it feels more genuine in a way. So yeah, it's very, very different, but I'm hoping if you read the first version and this one that you kind of take them as their own things. So hope you like it.
Well, I haven't read the book, but I have a question.
Yeah.
Was it re-edited or rewritten in a way that it can build up to another series?
Okay, so currently it's a standalone. It is a standalone, but I do know what happens like after the end of that book. If Harper Team or someone if we wanted to revisit it, I think that's possible in the future. There's one thing in the ending of both books that is sort of the key for her to go back to that world if she wants to. So it's possible, but that's not the plan at the moment.
Since the first 3 books in the selection series were written in the point of view of the one being chosen, and then the air is in the point of view of the chooser.
Yeah.
What kind of challenges did you encounter while writing with the shift of perspective?
Yeah, it's one, I feel like it was harder to follow in a way because when you're with America, you're kind of behind the scenes. You see much more of what's going on to make this election actually happen. And now, Evelyn's got a job, she's got other stuff. You don't get to see like all the boys like at one moment, which I think is harder to develop the characters when you don't get to see them as much. So it definitely feels like there are a handful that got really the moment to stand out, and maybe more could have if we had someone who was written from the boys' perspective. And just like the gender flip is kind of interesting as far as who's in control. I realize that I'm gonna get really heavy right now, but I think it's something kind of interesting. When people who use like Tinder or like current dating apps, if you ask a male what his greatest fear is, he's like, a girl might show up who is ugly or fat. Like that's what they say. If you ask a girl, she says she's afraid that she might get assaulted or raped, which is a huge thing. When you talk about like who's in control of like choosing, like Matson never had to worry about someone usurping him or hurting him. He even really does. I mean, you kind of see it in your book. She's like, I have a lot of power, but if Jackie wanted to hurt me, I really couldn't have done anything until after the fact. And that's really true. It was scary in a way to see this girl who was running everything, but still, just because like physicality, she's limited. Some of it is very scary. But I think it's also cool to sort of juxtaposition Evelyn with Camille, because they're both young women who are about to be queen, and the way they go about that is totally different. And you can see Evelyn's like jealousy, like how is she doing this? How is it so easy for her? But I think that's given her a lot of room for growth, and I hope that if you people stick around for the 5th book, that they'll see it. Some people don't really like Evelyn. I don't know if they'll get to the 5th book, but I really love her, so I hope you guys stick it out.
In connection to that, so what do you think fans can look forward to in the sequel for the year?
This is so hard because like it's written, it's like the first draft is done, and like I want to tell everybody everything. I can't. I'm doing my best to answer all the questions. Like I realize that we left a couple of like loose strings, a huge loose string, let's be honest, from the end of the first installment. And I think we're going to get a lot of closure. A lot of secrets. Like there was one, if I'm honest with you, I'm actually excited about this. There was one thing after the end of the 3rd book that I almost went on tour and said publicly, not knowing that we were going to write a 4th and a 5th book. And I'm so glad that information stayed here because it turns out to be kind of a big deal in the final installment. So there's stuff like carrying over generationally that you're going to get to see. But I'm hoping it's a good, we tie everything up and it's very nice and neat. And of course, more kissing because that's important. Obviously, it's crucial.
Yeah. It's still slated to come out in May.
Yeah, it's still slated to come out May of 2016. So Happily Ever After is October, The Siren will be January, and the final book in the series is next May.
With America being on and knowing the series' current events, do you see yourself in her in terms of giving advice about love and responsibility?
America and I are very different parents. I mean, that's probably the hard thing is that people will ask like why certain decisions were made. I'm like, well, it's her decision, not mine. Like I really kind of have to let her do what she's doing. But it is so funny because I think America and Evelyn are kind of the same, and they sort of got pushed into this thing that they weren't really excited about. And America's like, I don't know, I don't even, what do you? And then when it comes time for her daughter, she's like, you just got here. So it's like it's sort of funny because when I watched The Little Mermaid, like I love The Little Mermaid, and when I'm watching it as a kid, she's like, 16, I'm 16, Daddy, I know what I want, I love him. And we're like, honey, you're 16. You never talked to him. Like, what do you think? So it's so funny, like when you watch things and do things at different points in your life, and which character you relate to more. So I mean, I don't know if America and I are necessarily giving the same parenting skills or like comments, but I think it's important one to sort of encourage your kids to do their best, and then try to find the time when you gotta step back and let them do their own thing, which is difficult because you always want the best for your kid, but it's hard. But I mean, we'll see how that all comes out.
What are you currently working on, and how did Zayn leaving One Direction?
That wasn't written in the paper.
Going off script here. Honestly, okay, that first day I was like, what? Yeah, everything's falling apart. And it was really kind of weird. But, you know, I grew up in the 90s. I went through the Backstreet Boys. I went through NSYNC going on hiatus. I'm okay. But really, like, it was cool because, like, I'm on Tumblr. Like that's one of my favorite, like, corners of the fandom because everybody's so creative there. And of course, I follow plenty of One Direction loves. So I'm seeing people going to concerts and recording them singing these parts. They're dominating. So I'm totally fine now because everything sounds awesome. Besides the selection and the siren, I'm under contract for 2 more books with HarperCollins, and I have started working on what I hope is my next thing, but I don't know if it's my next thing. Basically, I'm so in love with the story, like I have to get it out of my system, whether it makes it into bookstores or not. But because like I don't know, I'm not really allowed to talk about it. But there is more coming, and of course, like basically, my favorite kind of story is a really good love story, one of those kind of against all odds things, and you know, with some sort of like slightly fantastical element to it. So that's all still there. But as far as like what's next, I don't know. I don't know, but we'll see.
What made you decide that there were more stories to tell in the selection world?
I'm gonna be honest with you, pretty much every career move I've made has been oops. Like that's like my life plan right now. I did not plan to write books. We accidentally ended up on the bestseller list. I don't know how I'm in the Philippines right now. Like it's all sort of like, it just sort of happens, and I'm not really sure how any of it comes to be. But we, my editor and I were talking, and it was just before The One was about to come out, and they had this idea to make a second epilogue to sort of say thank you to all the fans who had stuck around for years, and I was totally down with that. So like the first thing I did was I went Next Generation, and I started writing, and I called my editor. I was like, Erica, I hate you. This is not an epilogue. This is another book. So where's that? So we just sort of started talking about what we thought, or like how much content we thought it was. And we felt pretty confident that we could make 2 solid books. A lot of people were disappointed it's not 3, but I just didn't want to make a book that was full of stuff that you didn't actually need. You just spent money on a book that gave you nothing. So I'm happy with 2. So and once we realized that, we went back and wrote the actual second epilogue, which sort of bridged the gap between the 2. And if you haven't read that, it's going to be available in Happily Ever After, like that moment when Max and America discover they're going to have a family, which is totally precious. I love it. So yeah, oops, but we didn't know. But I feel really fortunate because I wasn't done. I was so bummed about the thought of letting go. So J.K. Rowling had it right, like that whole 7-book thing, like that's the way to go, man. I'm gonna start writing like a 7-book series so I don't have to like do anything new for a long time. It's hard.
Do you have a favorite among the young men in Princess Evelyn's selection, or at the very least, who has a very, 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 very special place in your heart? I think you have a tendency to like say they're all special.
They are all special. I will tell you that yes, I have a favorite, and I know that he does not win, and that's kind of hard because I like him so much. But it is, yeah, and I think what's really kind of cool too is like looking at England when she comes to like, oh, there are all these dudes in my house and I don't want them here. To the end when she's like, oh no, I'm gonna miss all of them in some sort of way. So I think it's kind of funny like how she got really attached and did not mean to, and I got attached and did not mean to, and I'm kind of bummed that he's not gonna make it. Or whatever. We're just gonna roll with it, but yeah. Basically, I just want to say thank you, because again, like this was the first place I came outside of the States, and it was incredible, and I will never forget that rock star moment of getting to step out of the car to a bunch of people screaming for me. That's insane, and you guys really wanted to give me that, so thank you. And thank you guys so much for giving Evelyn a shot, because I know it's sort of hard to go to junk narrators in the same world. And you guys did not have to consider her at all, and you are, and that means so much to me, because I love my girls. So basically just a massive, massive thank you, and I love you guys. Thank you so much.